Hello and welcome to the live session for Urban Governance and Development Management. Today is the live session for week 12, assignment 12. As no learners have joined yet, so I'll wait for 5 minutes to see if anyone joins, and we'll start the live session after 5 minutes. It is 5 minutes now, so I'll start the live session. So welcome to the live session for week 12, in which we'll be discussing assignment 12 from the past run of this course. This week is the last week for this course, so it contains 4 regular lectures and one last lecture you would have had in which you would have had the doubt clearing session and the course summary told to you, and then you would also have been given further reading material or told where to find material for further reading. Apart from that, this week you would have covered time management, in which lecture 56, that is time management. In that you would have covered why time management is needed, then what is time structuring, what is time priority matrix, how to use it, and then what is practice and follow-up. Next you would have learned about stress management, about eustress and distress, how to identify the stressors, what type of stressors there are, then time stress interactions, and then general principles of stress management. Then you would also you would have had another lecture on best practices in urban management. So you would have been told what good practices are and what best practices are, and then you would have been shown examples of several best practices belonging to different sectors, like some might have been for best practices for some kind of infrastructure, some might have been a best practice for some PPP mode participation, or some community-led programs, or other city management techniques, things like that. And the last lecture in this week would have been reflective learning and excellence. Then in this you would have studied why continuous learning and excellence are needed, and then what are the tools which are there for reflective learning, and then what are the initiatives that have been taken by the government of India to uh, to further reflective learning, and lastly, what is your role which comes into reflective learning and delivering excellence. So this is all which you would have covered in week 12, that is the last week of lectures. Now we'll move on to the questions. So questions again in the previous run were quite similar to the questions which are assigned in the current run. So again, I won't be giving out the answers to the questions, but I'll explain you the background material, and I'll explain how to approach the questions, what information you need, and how to solve it. So starting with the first question, which is stress. It's a true or false question. The question statement is stress can cause psychosomatic ailments in people. So for this, you need to know what psychosomatic ailments are. So psychosomatic disorder is basically a physiological condition which involves occurrence of physical symptoms. So not only psychological symptoms, but physical symptoms as well. And usually these physical symptoms, they lack a medical explanation. So psychosomatic illnesses, these involves experiencing symptoms that are influenced by psychological problems or emotional strains. So that is why it's difficult to give a medical explanation of the symptoms that are occurring. But again, they are influenced by psychological problems you've been facing. So some of the psychosomatic ailments you would have had a list in your lectures. The same list I have produced here. So these can be things like high blood pressure, angina, chest pain, heart attacks, migraine, backache, palpitations. Some people also get allergies. You can get anxiety, chronic fatigue, and phobias. All these are examples of some psychosomatic ailments that can occur because of psychological problems or emotional strain. So what you need to see here is, do these ailments occur because of stress, or is stress related to psychological problem or emotional strain? If yes, then it's a true statement. If no, then you know it's a false statement. I hope this question is clear. Moving on to the next one. So the next question is again a true or false question, and the statement is, stresses can be personal, social, and workplace related. So is it true or is it false? So one thing you need to learn about stresses is, stresses can take several forms. It can be environmental stressors. So you can get stressed if you're working in a very cluttered environment, is unhygienic, you're facing several problems, maybe it's not suited to your physical needs, maybe it's the seating arrangement or the working arrangement is not ergonomically designed, maybe it doesn't have proper ventilation or lighting. So with these are kind of environmental problems, or problems related to the physical environment, which can act as stresses. Then there are motivational. So you're not motivated, you're not getting enough motivation to do your work, or you're burdened by several things which is preventing you from being motivated. It can be related to your workplace, it can be related to things at home or your personal things. And then there are behavioral. So it comes from behavior, it can be your behavior also. So stresses can originate from your behavior, your pattern of stress management and time management, and it can even occur from the pattern of behavior of your co-workers or your superiors. So these are the uh, forms which stresses can take. So it is environmental, or related to a physical environment, motivational, and behavioral. So apart from that, you need to know that it can be induced because of various types, and as I just discussed. And it is essential that you identify the stresses to maintain and improve your performance and efficiency. So what the question is asking, if it can be personal, social, and workplace related, or this is a true or a false statement. So now you have to think carefully if stressors in the physical environment, in the personal, social, and workplace related uh, types, can environmental stresses be there in personal, social, and workplace related types? Can motivational stresses be there in personal, social, and workplace related types? Can behavioral stresses be there? So if you think about all these three forms of stressors, I think the answer to this question will be very clear to you. So moving on to the next question. So this question is about eustress and distress. This again is a true or false. So the statement is, both eustress and distress are typically perceived as stress with negative effects. So is it a true or a false statement? So basically, stress is not always a bad thing. Stress, if you see it objectively, although I know in the present scenario there is a lot of negative connotation associated with stress, but if you look at the phenomena of stress objectively, so it is the phenomena is simply your body's response to changes that create taxing demands on your body. So there are two types of stress. First is eustress, or you can say eustress is also sometimes perceived as the lack of stress, or uh, either lack or not adequate amount. So it is also referred to as positive stress. And then there's distress. So distress is referred, you can understand distress as a lot more than the required amount or excess of stress, and it is also referred to as negative stress. So eustress has
negative stress. So eustress.
uh, please don't turn on your mic.
Please don't.
There is echo going on, so please don't turn on your mic unless you have to ask something. Okay. Going back. So okay. Eustress has several characteristics. For example, motivation, focus, energy. It is in the short term, not in the long term. It is perceived as within our stress, which is within our coping abilities, or it can also motivate you or make you feel excited to do something, and it can improve your performance. And then distress has characteristics like causing anxiety or concern over something. It can be both short-term and long-term stress. It is perceived as I said, excess. So it is outside our coping abilities, and also it feels unpleasant. It decreases your performance, as we discussed earlier. It can create psychosomatic ailments, and it can even lead to mental and physical problems. Another thing that you have to keep in mind uh, about always about when you're asked questions related to stress, to not look at it in a very negative connotation. So eustress, again, it is said that there is some amount of stress, but it is within the coping capabilities. So as this tells you that a little amount of stress, which is actually your body's response to taxing demands, it is needed to improve your performance in short term. So adaptation of reaction of organism under stress, it is not intrinsically good or bad, and different organisms have different reaction to different situations in the end. So you have to keep that in mind and be very careful about that when you answer this question. I hope this is clear to you, what eustress and distress are. So I'll move on to the next question. Next question is, identify the form of education in which the student reflects upon their learning experiences. And you are given 4 options: classroom learning, reflective learning, online learning, and MOOC. So I'll tell you or what all 4 options are, what they mean, and based on that you can see what the correct option for this question is. So classroom teaching or learning, as you already know, it is basically, if you understand it in very crude terms, it is learning in the form which takes place in a classroom. However, if you go into the gist of classroom learning, the physical presence of classroom is not essential. What is essential is a teaching and learning activity which is taken within physical proximity. So it is sort of a complex and multi-layered social experience which occurs because of close proximity of the teacher and the learner, and the social and psychological activities which occur and responses of both the student and the teacher, they determine the learning in the classroom. So this is what classroom learning or teaching is. Then reflective learning. So reflective learning is basically the process of internally examining and exploring any issue of concern which is triggered by an experience. This creates and clarifies meaning in terms of self, and in which result in a changed conceptual perspective. So any experience you presented, or you have had any experience, based on that you internally examine all the different components of the experience. You explore the issue of concern which was there, and you try to clarify the meaning of different things, and your own role in that situation, and from that you learn through reflection. So that is what is called reflective learning. Then online learning. So online learning these days, it can be related to a multiplicity of modes of education. Like you can call related to distance learning, you can relate it to distributed learning, computer mediated learning, and e-learning. So all these forms are usually related with e-learning, online learning. What key is here what key component here is the presence of internet or online mode of communication uh, between the teacher and the learner. So that is key. Apart from that, the type of learning can be distant learning. So the teacher and the learner are not in close proximity, but they can even be in close proximity. And even after being in close proximity, the material for learning or the assignments, they can be shared and prepared online, distributed online. The exams can be conducted online. So basically, an online medium for conducting the uh, for delivering the study material, for delivering the lectures, and for conducting examinations and such. One online distribution and communication medium should be there. So that is what is referred to as online learning. And then MOOC. So MOOC refers to massive or mass open online courses. For example, the NPTEL courses you are attending. So these are a subset of online learning. So what it does is it basically integrates the connectivity of social networking and facilitates an acknowledged expert in the field of study uh, to teach the courses, and also it facilitates collection of freely accessible online resources, and it builds on the active engagement of several hundred to thousand of students or learners whose self-organized participation and drives the course, and they learn according to their goals, their prior knowledge, their skills, and their common interests. So this is what massive open online courses are. If you want to read about all of these modes of learning and teaching more, I have provided references for each type. So if you click the references, there are links to documents related to each of the types of learning, and you can just go to the link and you can check the document if you need further information on this. So I hope this makes it clear to you what all of these terms mean, and it's clear to you which among these terms is the form of education in which the student reflect upon their learning experiences. Moving on to the next question. Next question is, Fazilka Eco Cab is a rickshaw service in the Dash state of India, created to keep a balance between the demand and supply of non-motorized transportation by using communication technologies. Okay, so you would have studied about Fazilka Eco Cabs in the lecture discussing the best practices. So it is an example of the best practices in non-motorized transportation in a state of India. Which state it is your question. So what eco cabs are? They are basically a cycle rickshaw service, and what integration of communication technology is done with that is they are integrated with phone call service. So you can call them, and the service is delivered at your doorstep through a network of call centers. So it is similar to a dial a cab or taxi service, but for rickshaws. So it was introduced in order to bridge the gap between demand and supply of paratransit, or for, as you can understand, for last mile connectivity. So this is an example of a best practice. for public transport using the latest transportation management and technological tools. So you just have to recall which state this was introduced. I have also provided you the link to Fazilka Eco Cabs. So you can go to the link to their website and you can see their website. You can see for yourself if you want to learn a little more about the Eco Cab service and maybe even find out which state it belongs to. Another clue which is there is this picture. If you can recognize the language here, I think you can easily recognize which state these eco cabs belong to. Okay, moving on to the next question. Identify the option which describes one of the stress reduction methods. And then you've given 4 options: creative imagery, procrastination, postponement, and delaying. So I'll tell you what all 4 options mean, and based on that, you can identify which option is the correct answer for this question. So creative imagery is basically, you can understand it as either as use of vivid or figurative language to represent different objects or different actions or even your ideas. And then it can even mean use of expressive or evocative images in art or literature or music. What procrastination means is to put off doing something, keep putting it off, especially if out of a habit, habitual carelessness or habitual laziness, based on your it becomes so habitual that it becomes part of your behavioral reaction to doing anything. Then postponement. So postponement is to cause or arrange for any event or any deadline to take place at a time later than when it was proposed earlier or it was originally supposed to happen. So there is a difference between postponement and procrastination. So postponement is one of you can say one of event of arranging for something to happen later. However, procrastination is a behavioral typology. It's a type of behavior which one adopts for putting off something out of habit. Then the last is delaying. So delaying is meant to postpone until a later time. So it is similar to postponement, or but in a way, delaying can also refer to not only for the end point of the project to be changed, but even for the project or any activity or event to go slower than it is expected or desired. So delaying can refer both to the speed of the project or activity, or even to the end point or the end time when it's supposed to occur or finish. So that is the difference between postponement and delaying. So I hope all 4 are clear. So among 4, you have these 4, you have to choose which you can use as a stress reduction method. So procrastination, postponement, and delaying, these are related to time management, as you might know. And creative imagery is sort of a creative outlet. You would have studied this in stress reduction method, and through this diagram, as you can see, this diagram tells you about different stress reduction methods which are there. So time management, then self-hypnosis, you can get feedback, then you can do meditation, have group or social support, creative imagery, you can do thought stopping, you can do breathing exercises, regular exercise, proper nutrition, relaxation response, etc. So this also is another input which you can use to solve this question. I hope it is clear. Moving on to the next question. So next question is, choose the option which comes under quadrant 2 of the time management matrix. And you are given options: crisis, interruption, recreation, and trivia. So this is the time management matrix which you would have studied. So it contains x-axis and y-axis. On x there is urgent and non-urgent, and on y there is important and non-important. So quadrant 1 represents tasks which are urgent and also important. So it contains things like some pressing problems are there, or some very important projects are there which also have a deadline. So things like that come under quadrant 1. Then quadrant 2 is tasks which are important but they are not urgent, so they are not driven by a deadline. Although they are very important, they have extended period of time in which you can carry out the project. So this can include things like relationship building, finding new opportunities. So to find new opportunities, you don't have a deadline, you can keep on exploring, but it is important. Then doing long-term planning. So for long-term planning you have a lot of time, as it is long term, but then again it is important to plan for long term also. Then doing preventative activities. So preventative activities means doing something for some situation which can occur later, but which hasn't occurred up until now. So you still have time for that event to occur, and to prevent that you are taking some actions or doing some projects. So you still have time, but it is important uh, that you do the preventative activities. And then focusing on your personal growth. So you don't have a deadline to grow for your personal growth, so you can take your time, but it is important. So all these activities come under activities or projects which are not urgent but they are important. Then comes quadrant 3. So quadrant 3 has activities which are urgent, but they are not very important. So these can be like attending calls, meetings, or emails. So even though many times the meetings, calls, and emails can be not important, but they are urgent because they have a fixed deadline. If an email has come, you have email, call, or meeting is there, you have to attend it right then. Then it can be popular activities. So even though the activity might not be important, but it is popular at that moment and it won't be popular in another moment or after a time, so it is urgent to attend to right then. Then proximate pressing matters. So matters which might not be very important but they are in close proximity, close temporal proximity, so they need to be attended right then. So then comes the last, quadrant 4. So quadrant 4 is for activities which are neither important not very urgent. So it can be things like busy work or time wasters, some phone calls or emails which are neither important nor very urgent to take, or pleasant activities. So pleasant activities, they are not very urgent, you can do it in your free time, and they're not very important also if you seek to see the efficiency of some of your work or some project. So I hope it is clear to you what all four quadrants of the matrix mean. And the question to you is about quadrant 2. So it is about activities which are important but not urgent. So you can see from the four options, which are crisis, interruptions, recreation, and trivia, which of these is important but not urgent. Okay, moving on to the last question for today, which is arrange the following time structures in increasing order of level of risk. So it doesn't tell you level of risk of what risk it is referring to you. and it gives you 6 options to arrange. So these are ritual, withdrawal, activity, pastime, intimacy, and games. So first, I'll tell you that this is related to time structuring. All the 6 options which are given to you is related to time structuring. So time structuring is basically a piece of theory which tells you that uh, it basically allows you to think how intensely we spend time with each other. So it's about your relationship with people, and based on the relationship, how intensely you spend time with people. So you might remember from the last lecture the theory of transactional analysis, which was given by Eric Berne. So he also believed, like he had given the theory of transactional analysis, which was for human relationships. So based on that, there is also this theory which tells like there is a need. Human beings have a need to structure their times based on their relationship with different people in some way. So based on the emotional intensity of our relationship, uh, the time or the quality of time we spend with people we know, it increases step by step as we move from withdrawal to intimacy. So uh, as you see in the options here also, there are options like ritual, withdrawal, activity, pastime, intimacy, and games. And this tells you it increases step by step as the emotional intensity increases step by step from withdrawal to intimacy. It again, but as the emotional intensity increases, emotional risk also increases from when we move from withdrawal to intimacy. So this emotional risk is what this question is referring to as risk. So I hope the question is clear to you, and based on this you can see how to arrange them. I'll just explain a little bit to you what all these levels are. So first is withdrawal. Withdrawal is having zero interaction, no interaction, just having an internal monologue. So just being with yourself, having interactions just with yourself. Then there is rituals. So rituals is familiar or familiar social interaction, which is pre-programmed in you sort of. So you already know how to respond to that social reaction. You don't have to think about it. It comes naturally to you. Then is pastime. So pastime is you're talking with someone, interacting with someone, discussing some idea or something, but with no real action. Then comes activity. So activities like when you are communicating and interacting and using your energy towards achieving an outcome. Then is games. So the games is when there occurs a series of interactions or transactions with a psychological payoff in the end. And then comes intimacy. So intimacy is expression of authentic feelings and wants without censoring anything. So this is what all the 6 elements of the time structuring means. So I hope you can arrange these in the increasing order of level of risk. So this was the final question for today. Thank you for attending today's session. If anyone has any questions, please go ahead. I see one participant, Azizur Rahim. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am, I have no question
Okay,
right now.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am,
Okay.
for the amazing session for today.
You're most welcome.
You're most welcome.
Uh, so as there are no more participants and I've finished discussing all the questions, so I think I'll close the session for today. The forum is still open to you. I don't know when your exams are, but before your exams, if you have any more questions or any more doubts related to the content or the study material or any other questions you might have, please go ahead and post it on the forum, and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you all for attending the live sessions and all the best for your upcoming exams. I hope you do very well. Thank you.